right, so this is Brock. He's going to explain to us the difference between a box store dehumidifier, how they're tested, what they're able to do versus the Aprilaire products. Go ahead, Brock.
Yeah, so I'm Brock Thatcher. I am the channel marketing manager for the Basement Crawl Space channel, focusing on dehumidifiers. And really, the difference that you're going to see with a portable that you'll usually buy in a retail store versus an Aprilaire whole home dehumidifier, the real difference is just the capacity and how much water it can remove from the air. Also, it has a lot to do with the speed of the air, so the CFM, cubic feet per minute of air that can be moved. So the main difference with a portable unit is it is meant for a singular area. So, one room, maybe 300, 400, 500 square feet. It's able to pull that moisture out of the air and keep that room nice and in that healthy 40 to 60 relative humidity zone. But once you move room to room, or the further that you get away from that unit, it's going to feel more clammy and that humidity is going to be higher. So with a whole home unit, if you have it ducted to your AC, you can actually spread that dry air throughout the entire home. But the other thing about these units is because they're more powerful, they have a higher CFM and more power to pull out that relative humidity, they're able to actually normalize that temperature throughout most of your home. So even if you don't have it ducted, this unit will actually make the rest of your home feel better. Not quite as good as it will, if you had it ducted to your AC, but it's still going to get the job done. It's definitely going to protect your basements, your crawl spaces, those sort of things. And also it's going to help with the relative humidity in your home, which can potentially help you lower your energy bills by bumping up that thermostat a little bit. So when you talk about how these are tested, that's the really big difference. You may see an item on Amazon or another retail store that claims that it can take out the same amount of moisture and can do the same amount of square footage as one of our units here. The difference with that is really in the details. So when we're testing these units, they're typically tested at 80 degrees and 60% relative humidity. And then as you get into more of the home conditions, we actually test these at 7360 as well, and then all the way down to 6560. So we're making sure that our units are going to perform at every level or condition that your home may be in. With a portable unit, you may see that it has 70 pints like our E70 here, but what you're not seeing is in the fine details are actually testing these units at a much higher relative humidity and temperature. I've seen all the way up to 95 degrees and 90% relative humidity. And a good way to think about that is if you're in those conditions, it'll be very, very easy to pull moisture out of the air. So whereas that 70 pint unit may pull out 70 pints at 95, 90, it's not going to even come close to pulling out 70 units at 80, 60 or 73, 60 like one of these units. So it really is, in terms of getting what you pay for, you're getting a unit that is built for contractors. It's built to get the job done in the entire house, not just for a single room. So another thing that you want to consider when you're going to purchase a dehumidifier for yourself is you want to think about the build quality. So one of the things we really pride ourselves on at Aprilaire is we build these dehumidifiers here in Madison, Wisconsin. They go through some of the most rigorous testing of any dehumidifier that you're going to find anywhere else. And that's why they come with a 5-year warranty. When you look at a portable model, a lot of these units are actually shipped over from China. Many times they're created out of plastic. Some of these units have even been recalled because of a fire risk due to that plastic getting too hot, actually melting and catching on fire. So you really want to look at the quality of the build. And another thing that people don't realize is the largest failure point on a dehumidifier comes within the coils where the refrigerant is running through. So one of the things that we've done at Aprilaire is we've limited the amount of brazing points or the welds where that refrigerant has a chance to leak. So we've really cut down on having callbacks or people having to use their warranty. Whereas that's not happening with a lot of the competitive dehumidifiers that are made overseas. And the other thing to think about too, when it comes to a dehumidifier or refrigerant system being faulty, it really has a lot to do with how it's handled. So when this unit is shipped from Aprilaire, it's coming from the US, it doesn't have that much distance to travel. When you're getting something from overseas, first of all, it might be on a ship, it might be on a plane, coming into port, going into a truck, going to a distributor, going to you. So all these different touch points and all of the different, beating around and shaking that unit is taking is going to lead to a lot more failures in those units and could potentially lead them to not being safe for you to operate in your home. One of the things that we really like to stress here at Aprilaire is the quality of the products that we produce. So they are made right here in Poinet, Wisconsin, right outside of Madison, by a team of skilled laborers that really have to do an immense amount of training to be able to produce the quality product that we want to. So the key differences when you look at our whole home Aprilaire dehumidifiers is really the materials that are used inside of this. So the first big one is that we use steel in the creation of these units, so they're very sturdy. These units sometimes are going to be put in undesirable places like a crawl space or a basement. They need to be able to take a bit of a beating. So we're really going to have an upper hand against a lot of the more portable units that are used with plastic. Another big differentiator with our units is our aluminum coils. They are corrosion resistant. So typically dehumidifiers are going to be using copper coils. A good reference point in terms of looking at copper, you can look at older buildings and you can understand that those oxidize, they break down. And that's one of the things that we really wanted to combat when we were working with, a device that's actually removing moisture from the air. So that metal is going to have contact with moisture. So what we did is we built those coils out of aluminum. So now you're not going to have to worry about corrosion and that refrigerant system breaking down and leaking. And that's a really big thing that we like to focus on. Another thing about our build are the controls. So a lot of people will sometimes have dehumidifiers that you can set to the exact set point, but the logic within our dehumidifiers is very advanced. So it will actually read off the dew point, which is a more precise calculation, and the unit will actually shut off when it doesn't need to run. So that's going to save you definitely on your energy savings, but also it's going to allow the longevity of that unit to stand the test of time. The other thing that our units are able to do with that interface is they're able to throw some error codes. So when you have an error code that comes up, E1 through E9, you can pull off a little clip on the top. It'll tell you what the error code is, and then you'll easily be able to find the part and replace it, which makes it very, very simple. Typically, you want to have your cabinets positively pressurized. So what that does is that makes sure that water is able to get out of that unit without the use of a P-trap. So with the new E-Series models, what we've actually done is we've created an insert that is patented that will not allow water to flow back into the unit. So even though the cabinets are under negative pressure, the water is still going to be forced out of that unit, not able to get back in, and you don't need to use a P-trap. So a much easier install, no need to get a plumber or anything like that. Another really great feature that we have on the E-Series Aprilaire dehumidifiers is if you for some reason would lose power, the unit is going to pop right back on to the exact set point that you had it set when you left it. So if you have a big thunderstorm, and you have a lot of moisture around you in the air and that dehumidifier needs to work, if for some reason you were to lose power, immediately once that power turns back on, your dehumidifier is going to begin working again. And that's really a big deal, especially if you've got a unit that's down in a crawl space, because nobody wants to be down crawling around in their crawl space to reset their dehumidifier. So, allowing the machine to come back on and get right back to business is something that we really think is a great feature and that homeowners and contractors really appreciate. Another thing that we do at Aprilaire is we ship all of our units with duct collars. So there's two main reasons that this is a benefit to the consumer. So if you want to duct that system, that dehumidifier to an HVAC system, you don't have to go out and buy anything extra. We keep those included. Something else, a little tip, every once in a while somebody will put one of our units in and they'll say, hey, perhaps I can still hear it in the house a little bit. So with those duct collars on there, you can go out and get yourself, let's say 10, 20 feet of flex duct, put those on each side, and that'll quiet the noise of the fan and the compressor substantially, and you won't have an issue with that anymore. Another really cool thing about the Aprilaire E-Series, so the 80, 100, and the 130 pint, they've got a couple different interchangeable components that'll allow you to set up the unit in different ways. So for instance, on the back, you can actually put a panel over the outflow on the unit, and you can actually direct the air to come out of the top. So sometimes if people have an HVAC system where they need to put it underneath and it needs to shoot up, no problem, you can change that. And then the same goes for the user interface. It can be mounted either on the front or on the top of the unit. So let's just say you have a really tight crawl space. You can actually move that display to the front so you're able to see it when you need to service it or anything like that. And then for vice versa, sometimes in a small crawl space as well, maybe you had to cut a hatch to drop that dehu down in there, and you need to make sure that that's facing up so you can read what's going on. You can simply move that to the top of the unit, and then you're all set and ready to go.